Jill Vanek looking beautiful in that. Is that purple?
It is a like hot pink, which is truly my favorite color. Meg, I used to lie, especially when boys would ask me what my favorite color was. I used to say it was blue. And I don't know why I would lie. And it wasn't until a couple years ago, I was like, actually, I don't know why I do that. It's a hot pink. Like, look at my Christmas tree.
Good
Hot pink.
girl. Own it. Own it. Own it.
Yes.
I am so excited. Like I was telling you, and I'm not even ashamed to admit this. I might be single white female of you. And as you
Can I please quote that? I'm obsessed. That movie was so good, by the way.
Wasn't it so good?
So good.
As you got on the
If people
screen.
haven't seen it, they need to watch it.
Oh, you do. Oh, you do. As you got on the screen, I went because I was so excited to see your name. And I think what a gift that is. Like, I hope everyone has that person in their life that you just get excited to see their name. It makes you happy.
You just know it's going to be a good time. It's just so nice when you have that comfort level or that you just trusted it.
Yes. I bet a lot of people tell you that.
You know what? A lot of people tell me that I'm familiar to them or they feel like comfortable.
I can see that. I can see that.
Is that weird?
No, I think people pick up on energy. Like I'm a huge believer that, and you know this to be true, as do I. You know, when you go on a first date with someone and you can tell automatically in the pit of your stomach, like, oh, not the one for me, but he might be smoking. So you keep hanging out.
Are you reading my diary? Because yeah, I think I know that feeling. Oh yes. So you're right. You just know there's a connection or not. Yeah, it's something next level, ethereal.
Yes. Oh, I love that, ethereal. So I want to take our listeners how we came into each other's lives, because I think and you are the queen of this, leveraging your network, and networking's not what you think it is, and leaning into your resources. Do you remember how we came into each other's lives?
I absolutely remember. And I love where we're going with this because networking is such a dirty word in some people's minds. And it's just not that way at all. And we did come about with networking. So we came to meet through our mutual friend, Lauren. And you were in Power with Lauren, right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So it's so funny how the world works. I met Lauren on a bachelorette weekend for my good friend Meg, who is Lauren's sister. We met, we hit it off. We were sitting on the back patio at 2 a.m., as you do at bachelorettes, drinking wine. Yeah. And it was such an epiphany moment because, of course, we talked about Kim Kardashian, Pete Davidson, all of that, boys, all of this. But we found ourselves, the entire group of women, getting drawn back into gender inequality, the pay gap, what it's like having kids as a woman versus a man, like ambition. We started talking about these big items that no one really sits, and a room full of women have such a unique perspective on. Lauren and I then decided to do a podcast, and she could not stop raving about you. She said, we absolutely had to meet. We had to have you on the podcast. We did. And it's been like lightning ever since.
A love affair was born. I love how I think it is so, what am I trying to say here? I love that you two had this moment that you're like, there's something here. And what do you think it was that you leaned into that gut whisper that told you there's something here, where we're all so quick to run from it and be like, nah, that's uncomfortable. I'm not doing that. Instead, you embraced it.
I think it was so interesting that sitting around Meg, it was almost like a part of me was feeling so much less alone than I had before. And not that I don't have these conversations with friends, But we were sitting around, and obviously the wine probably helped, but it was like, oh, I'm not the only one who holds this thought so heavy, or I'm not the only one who sits at night and worries that I'm working too much at the expense of a relationship. Can women have it all? Am I doing the right thing? Am I a good person? Like just these big existential, larger questions that I grapple with, you grapple with, we all grapple with, but we only talk about in secret or we never talk about it all.
Yeah.
And just big items. And of course, obviously, we still love to giggle and talk about nonsense and the Kim Kardashians of the world. But it's like, it felt powerful to be like, I'm not alone. We are all in this together. And we need to start opening up the door for other women to know this is normal. You can feel this way. And we go through this too. Because by every measure, Meg, birds of a feather tend to flock together.
Mm.
And by any objective measure, you, me, Lauren, that group of women sitting around are super successful
Mhm.
by the standard definition. But it's like, even women like us, oh, they've made it, or look at their career trajectory, they have it all. Just knowing that these things we grapple with every day, do we have it all? The things that go on in our minds, I think needed to have light shed on them.
Have you found that I love everything that you're saying, and you got me, girl, and an analogy. I love an analogy. And as you're talking about putting down the mask that we're taught to hide
Yes.
behind and getting real, most importantly, with yourself first. Have you found that as you've been on this journey, as you've been vulnerable, as you've been going there in your conversations externally and internally, have you found that your relationships, like your tribe, has changed? And has that been a lonely process?
The tribe definitely changes, but I think I've been able to see that as a personal sign of growth
Mm.
and as something that's positive. And Meg, I think it's very interesting too, the effect we cannot take for granted of our childhood, our upbringing. I'm from a military family.
Yeah.
So I am very used to people for me have a shelf life. And that is something my entire life or my entire adult life, I have really been working to address in that it was a survival instinct. I was
Mm.
going to be at a base for 2 years, 3 years. I had to be okay with, okay, our time is done. We all have that understanding. I'm going to move on now and make another friend group. So I think that's been interesting for me in that I'm very used to being able to recycle people. And I say that, I don't mean it callously. I mean it was survival. I had to know how to make new friends. So up until recently, Meg, and even now what I grapple with is I have hundreds of acquaintances. I know this one, this pocket, this one. I'm friends, quote unquote, with a lot of people. But I've really been trying to focus on who is my executive board? Who is
Mm.
my ride or die? Who do I trust? Who knows the real me that I'm not putting that chameleon on? Because Meg, I'm really good at survival. You need me to be the cool girl? Cool. You need me to be into sports? Amazing. We need to talk about finance? I can do that too. So it's really later in life, and I just turned 41, that I'm really finding that I'm starting to address that. Who can I be myself with? Who can I let my
Mm.
guard down? Who am I going to allow into this world? And also on my end, working on strengthening those friendships, letting people in. That's not something I used to do very easily. So allowing them to come in and not shutting the wall day one because it's not expendable.
Oh my God, I just had a revelation about myself. This has turned into a therapy session. As you're telling your story, I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, Meg, you never dealt with half this shit that you're talking about. I was such a shut off because I didn't have the father in my life. So from a very young age, I was like, well, no one's hurting me. So I had the walls up.
Protective. Exactly.
Right. So I was always the one I would ask about you, but I would never share myself.
Yes.
And I was whoever, as you were talking about it, like I was whoever you needed me to be. And 9 times out of 10, it was the drunk, funny girl because
Exactly.
but I never even knew who I was. Do you find, as someone who is crossing into the threshold of 40, that there's something so freeing? You get rid of the bullshit about the comparison, about the where you are on the tier of life, and it's more about getting to know you. Have you found that?
Meg, there's never been a statistic that has shocked me more. So, as my side business, I do career coaching. I do a ton of research. I work with HR departments, managers, specifically focused on women in the workforce and in corporate America. It is such a passion for me. Meg, I was going to give a keynote speech maybe last summer or 2 summers ago. I was doing all this research and I found a statistic that women's self-rated confidence does not equal a man's until age 40. And after age 40, women literally start blowing men out of the water. It is something like 20% higher by 60, by 65. But I think the important thing was confidence is lowest in women at around age 24, 25, right when you're entering the workforce, when you're forming that identity. And Meg, it really was one of those moments. I remember reading that statistic when I was 40. And I thought to myself, well, shit, if this is not spot on. I hit 40 and it literally was like a light bulb went off for me. And I am not saying I have it all worked out. I'm not saying I'm now this enlightened mini Buddha, but I really started to feel myself give less of a shit about what other people thought and really hone in on what do I want? Why do I want it? This is me. I'm leaning into me.
I love that. And I want to unpack. You said something that made my ears go when you were talking about passion, because I have seen the passion that you have for empowering other women, not only with their careers, but how to be advocates for themselves. Like, well, I was thinking of the Go To Girls event that you did, and I hope you guys do another one. That was so great.
Yes.
And watching you in that room, one of the first times I met you in person, one of the things I took away was, wow, she is so passionate, authentically about helping women. Have you always had that in your DNA?
It has been something unnamed. I don't think I had honed in on it or known what to call it.
Yeah.
But Meg, it is something that this sounds beyond cheesy, but it's true as true can be. It's like a fire. It's something in my belly.
Mm.
I think a lot of it was my upbringing in that I grew up, and a lot of times my mom was the only working mom out of all of my friends. And that is not a diss against moms, women who don't work. But what I saw, especially in the military, Meg, is there are so many marriages where the women is just assumed to sort of take on her husband's role in life. And I'm the spouse, I'm the mom. I saw women always be someone, be identified as being someone's something. I'm someone's sister, I'm someone's wife, I'm someone's mom. No, you're someone. Who are
Mm.
you? What are you contributing? What is your identity? And Meg, I get so passionate about this. When women are described as selfless, I get agita. I literally, my heart starts constricting. I can't think of a worse word. And I know people mean it in a good sense, but to me, the definition of selfless is lack of self.
Mm.
Men are never described as selfless. It's
Mm.
always a woman. I cannot think of anything stronger than a woman who has the power financially, spiritually, mentally, intellectually to stand on her own 2 feet. That example was set for me at a young age. And I'm so passionate about giving that power to women. And what I find with my clients, with women in general, it boils down to lack of confidence. Women aren't taught how to do this. A lot of us are taught at a young age, Be the good girl. Go watch TV. Be quiet. Read a book in the corner. Don't speak until spoken to. And
Yeah.
just that effect is such a trickle. So many of my clients bloom, blossom, but they need that confidence, that kick in the ass to say, I believe in you. Now you need to believe in you too.
Mm. For our listeners, when you said fire in the belly, I thought to myself, oh my God, I love that because we hear find your purpose, da, 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 and you're like, what the fuck is that? But I think we all have that little gut whisper that we know what lights us up if we allow ourselves to lean into it. But Jill, I would love to hear from you as someone who does such a beautiful job of infusing confidence in women and helping them advocate for themselves and believe in themselves. And I would love, what is one nugget you have, one micro step that the woman that is listening right now that is like, this is great, Jill and Meg, I love that you found your thing, but I don't know where to start. I know my life is meant for more, but I have no idea where to begin.
I think a micro step that really did help me. And again, at first, all the listeners are out there are going to be like, Jill has lost her damn mind. There are so many steps and so many ways I think you can connect to your gut.
Mm.
But I think one thing that I still do every day that has had a marked impact is self affirmations,
Mm.
looking in the mirror. And again, it seems when I talk about it at first that it's a body thing, but it's a whole body thing for me. How many times have we stood naked in the mirror?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you could have clothes on if you wanted to, but stood with yourself, said, this is me, and said the words to myself, I am powerful. I'm your best friend. I've got your back. We're going to get through this.
Mm.
You can do hard things. Speaking to yourself like you would speak to one of your best friends. We don't do that enough. We don't hype ourselves up enough. At the end of the day, we can have our friends, our cheerleaders, our parents, our siblings. If you don't believe your shit, no one else is going to believe your shit. You have
Mm.
to want to be in that arena. And it sounds silly, but I'll never forget. I was watching a documentary with Michael Jordan, and someone asked him a question about, did you ever get nervous? You know, you're taking the last shot of the game, or you're doing this, or it's all riding on you. And the confidence, because of his repetition, because of that affirmation, because he put in the work and the hours, he said in that documentary, it better be me. I want to be the last one with my hands on that ball. I want it to fall on me. You want me on that court. Like, that is the way I think we need to look at our life. You want me out there. I'm your best player. I'm the MVP.
I love the mirror analogy because I have to tell you, Jill, I think of my own self, my own journey. And when I started this, I never even knew the woman looking back at me in the mirror. I never even took time to get to know her, besides to ridicule her and tell her she was too fat and she needed to get the Botox and she was stupid. But I never took the time to even get to know her and get curious. And I love that you made it so simple with just take a few moments to stand with yourself in the mirror and tell yourself some positive shit like that. It's easy. It's doing it. I love that.
It's the doing it. And you're so right, Meg. And we talk about it all the time. I love that you coined this term micro steps, because it is. It's actually doing it, though. I can talk till the cows come home that you should journal, you should do this, you should do that. And who gives a shit if I'm saying you should do it? What works for you? Like,
Yeah.
really making that connection, though, putting pen to paper, saying things out loud to yourself, treating yourself like your own best friend, because guess what? You're going to be with you from day one. Today, 100,001. It's it. It's you. So you got to be good with you.
Yeah. I love how you said that. It has to work for you. Someone else can't write the playbook for you.
Exactly. And I don't know what's going to work for you. And again, of course, we can guide, and this is what's worked for me. And, of course, we're big on this is evidence based. This is what
Yeah.
the research shows. All of that is super important. But again, I really think it goes back to, you've got to believe your own hype. You've got to believe your own shit because no one else is going to be able to do that. You can't fake that.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to talk about the 47 hats that you wear. What I love so much about it is the fact that we think we need to be in a certain lane. And if we're not in this lane, then we sucked and we failed. We never cross reference it. Hell, you can merge in and out like a New Jersey driver. And as I got to know you, and I was like, fuck, Jill's amazing. Doctorate, solid core instructor, which I don't know what they call that thing. It's the devil, if you ask me.
The megaformer. Even the
Oh,
name sounds imposing.
you have the your podcast host. You have your career catalyst program. I love that you have all the what's the word I'm trying to say? Like you are able to fill all these little pieces of yourself. Has that been a journey for you? And as you do all of these things, how do you not lose yourself in it?
It's definitely been a journey. And I think it's been such an evolution, Meg, in that I am not going to sit here and lie to you. And you would know if I was because you know me so well. A lot of my time when I was younger, I was always busy because I needed to fill up that space. I
Mm.
can't not be busy because then I don't know what to do with myself. And then I have stuff to think about. And I don't want to think. I don't want to get muddy. I'm good. So a lot of that busyness was that protective mask. I'm doing something. This is my purpose. This is my meaning. And it's interesting, Meg, in that as I've gotten older, as I've gone to therapy, as I've grown into myself and the woman I am, there's always evolution. I am just as busy, but it's for a different reason.
Mm.
It's
Mm.
busy because it's fulfilling, because I am finding my purpose in it, because it's something that I feel called to, drawn to, that I am organically excited about, rather than just filling my time with things to fill my time.
Oh my God, I love that.
For me, as I've gotten older, I've really found, like I said, I'm pursuing things where I feel that calling. It's almost when we were talking about before, I used to be so anxious about exactly what you said. Well, what's my purpose? How come everyone else knows? What's my passion? How do I be happy? We act in society as if it's a toaster that I can go to Walmart, buy happiness, and just put it on the shelf. And now I look at my life and the things I choose to do, they're under an umbrella.
Mm.
Maybe that career catalyst program evolves. Maybe I take that and I want to turn it into a nonprofit and go that route. Maybe I take a break and I volunteer. Maybe I don't do any of it. My life, I really see my purpose as this overarching umbrella. Again, I'm super passionate about women's empowerment, women's rights, moving up that corporate ladder, being able to make our mark and have financial wealth and independence, which again then equates to the ability to choose, have a voice, and have freedom. All of these things can fall under that umbrella. It doesn't have to be one, oh my God, earth shattering passion purpose that my life is dedicated just to this. I think those micro steps, those micro passions all fall under the bigger umbrella for me.
Oh, I love that. As you were talking, first of all, I felt like I was in the first pew of Jill Vanek church service. I was about ready to be like, give it to me.
All the saints.
I know, yeah. Because I resonate with that so much. I remember I would sit in front of my computer until all hours of the night. I would be exhausted and I would answer the emails and I would do the things
Mhm.
because I hated the silence. And then when that was done, I would run to the booze on the weekend. And then I would go to the pizza and then I would go to the men, whatever order that fell in, because I never wanted to be alone with my thoughts.
Right. And I think that is more common than not. And I think if it's not common to someone, there's a very high possibility they're not admitting it to themselves. They're not thinking about it. They're just going from step to step to step. And it's muddy. People don't want to address it. And again, you and I are not sitting here saying, we're enlightened. See you
No.
later. We're good to go. You know, there are so many things I still grapple with, and that I'm so successful in this arena, but I feel like I'm failing in this arena
Yeah.
at times. You know, again, societal expectations, expectations on myself. It's a constant act, but truly with age, with therapy, with just leaning more into myself, it's almost like I find myself, I describe it like I'm now in the eye of the storm. There's a
Mm.
calmness. I'm more grounded than I used to be. Yeah, shit's still flying around all over the place. And yeah, do I have some mental breakdowns every now and then and cry for no reason? Of course. But I continue to come back. I'm in the eye of the storm. I'm calm. I trust me. That's
Mm.
what's changed. I know I'm good. I like who I am. I'm leaning into me. I'm calmer so I can better deal with the shit going around me.
Oh my God, I love that. Oh, I love that, Jill. I'm so happy that you talked about, listen, you and I aren't perfect. Hell, just the other week as we were going through this move, I said to you, like, why am I going back to this old shit? The over the
Mhm.
spending, instead of buying the dollar chapstick, I gotta buy the $15 chapstick. And
Right.
why am I going back to the Oreos and eating the whole sleeve? And what I realized is that as life changes, if you don't have that anchor and you feel
Mhm.
uncomfortable, you go back to shit that was comfortable at one point because you need a life raft.
Exactly. And I think that's human nature. And we can't beat ourselves up over it. But I think the biggest thing that I've learned, Meg, is exactly what you said. We recognize it now. It's okay to eat a sleeve every now and then,
How can you
but
stop?
we
How can you not?
recognize, right?
Right.
Exactly. And I think that just the self awareness, what do I need? What can I give? What can I receive? When do I need help? All of that is just such a huge change from who I was 10 years ago, 20 years ago. It's all part of the growing process. But I think the self awareness is just so key, recognizing that pattern and being able to say, okay, I know what's going on.
And talking about self awareness, one of the things I love about this time of year, I don't know why it's just this time of year, but we give ourselves grace to hit pause and recognize all the shit that we've done, all the goodness in our life. And you said something before we hit record that made me smile like the Cheshire Cat as you were talking about this recent trip that you had. Will you share it with our listeners?
So you are constantly in the back of my head in a non creepy way, in a loving way.
Yeah.
But I was sharing with you that so often we're in that rat race.
Mm.
And we know there's always a deadline or this or that. I think we're all guilty of it. But Meg, for instance, I have 3 graduate degrees and a college degree. I didn't attend any graduations. Ah, we're done. Who cares? Moving on. Let's start my job. Let's do this. What's the next step? We don't take time to allow life to sink in. And for the first time in a long time, I was very privileged. And when I say privileged, I recognize that privileged, but I also worked my ass off
Mhm.
to work at a company where I am able to travel globally and do what I love to do. And I was sitting in a first class pod, getting ready to go on a 13-hour flight to Tel Aviv, Israel, a country I'd never been to. I was so excited to go to on work's dime. And I was able to sit and say, holy shit, I manifested this. I worked for this. I used to get on a plane, and you know, my ass would go to row 50 by the bathroom,
I know
and
that
I
seat.
would pass, right? We've been in that seat. I would pass these women, and you know how it is. Not a lot of women in first class.
Mm, mm, mm.
Still to this day, all these businessmen, and I'd pass, and every flight it'd be 1 or 2 women. ready for work, baller, with their phone, with the New York Times out. And I would secretly think to myself, that's it. That's her. I'm going to be her. And I was sitting in that pod, this was just last week, and I was like, holy shit, I'm her. I'm the woman I want to become. I'm not looking at someone else now and saying, I want to be her. I'm looking at me saying, I want to be you. Lean into you. You're the good shit.
Mm.
And it was a big moment, and we don't celebrate that enough. It was a big moment for me. This, again, there's miles to go, literally and figuratively, but this was a big light bulb moment of you're now the woman in first class.
I love that. Have you, as you're talking about this, have you heard of oh God, the documentary Stutz with
I heard of it with Jonah Hill and his therapist.
oh my God, it was so good.
I need to watch.
Yes, and there's a certain point in there where he talks about this shadow self, this
Mm,
version of yourself that you're ashamed of, embarrassed of, that you've been running from, and you never take time in your life to ask what it needs from
mm,
you. And as you're saying that, it just made me think of the Jill we were talking about earlier, the young Jill who was always flubbing to the next thing, doing the next thing, keeping busy. Like, what a moment to actually celebrate the person that's been on this ride with you the whole time and you helped her get there. You.
yeah. And, we all go through this, Meg. And like I said, work in progress. But it wasn't until the last few years I really like who I am,
Oh, I
flaws
love
and
that.
all. And that makes such a difference. Not only do I know that I've got my own back and I'm strong enough, I'll be okay. Whatever happens, I like who I am. I like the woman I'm becoming, I've become. That was such a big breakthrough for me. There are years I'm too fat.
Oh,
My nose is too big. No boys like me. I'm not smart enough. I'm not good enough. All that negative self talk. And it's a lot to grow into yourself. And I feel like I'm finally hitting that stride of like, actually, I like who I am. I really like who I've become. And when I'm good with me, that allows me to give more. It allows me to get out of my head and get into action.
Yes. Yes. Then Jill church service moment right there, my sister. And I know it's been a journey. We've talked about this, and it's not everyone thinks it's a formula that they can just get in Amazon and a package comes and they're like you said earlier, like it's a toaster. But if you had to pinpoint a couple of things, and the reason I ask this, my friend, is for the listener right now that is like, God, I would love to learn to love myself. And I know we talked about the affirmations, but is there some things that you can pinpoint back on this journey that you are like, yes, this helped me. This helped me. Anything that comes to mind?
So, one of the things that I believe in so firmly, therapy.
Mm.
That has been an absolute game changer for me. Not only do I find the human brain fascinating and just looking at it, what I find so fascinating about us is you're going to laugh, Meg, but I've always found identical twins fascinating because it sounds odd, but I think it would be so interesting not only to see what you look like, but to see what you look like to other people.
Yeah.
We don't view ourselves. It's like we have this kaleidoscope, this weird distorted image of ourselves. Like, have you ever looked at a picture of yourself and been like, that's what I look like? Or
All the
heard your
time.
voice, right? We have this distorted, and I don't mean distorted in a bad way. I just mean we can never have the same lens that someone
Mm.
else does of us. And I think therapy has been huge for me because I think the human brain's fascinating. I think patterns are fascinating. I think it's just been a big confidence booster. But the other thing I would say with that, I used to take everything personally. I
Mm.
didn't get that job, they hated me. He dumped me, I'm horrible. No one will ever date me. It's me. It's me. Like that Taylor Swift song, Hi, it's me. Hi, I'm the problem. That was my life motto. It's me. What did I do? What did I do wrong? where when I look back at those situations and now with this sort of new look on life, 99% of things are not personal. They really are not. Everyone is going through their own thing, their own shift, their own lens. So I think that has been huge. A couple other things for me, honestly, Meg, reading.
Mm.
Reading has been huge. It's opened me up to new worlds. I tell all of my clients and I tell everyone, I have it right here. I still get the paper, old school style.
Oh, I
It
love
sounds
that.
silly. I love it. I think being up to date on current events, being aware of world life events. The third thing, volunteering, getting outside of myself, doing medical mission trips. Again, I'm not trying to sit here being like, oh, well, Jill's trying to make it sound like she's some saint. When I am in the Dominican Republic or in Haiti or giving back and running clinics, here's the last thing I think about myself.
Mm.
The last thing I think about. You've got to get out of your own head. It's so important. And the final thing I would say in terms of your micro steps, to coin your term, I think confidence is a muscle that we don't build daily and we need to. And I think when I work with people, they're like, how do I build confidence at work? Confidence is all around us. It's doing something every single day that's new to you, or you didn't think you could do, or that's scary.
Mm.
Trying a new workout class on my own. I still get nervous sometimes when I go to a new city and it's a workout I've never been to. I get butterflies. When I get butterflies now, Meg, that's when I'm on to something. That's when I know I'm in the good shit. Asking out a guy, going up to someone, raising my hand during a speaking panel, nominating myself to be a speaker,
Yeah.
or for an assignment at work, or saying a comment while we're in a big discussion with senior leadership. Like doing something that scares you every day, the butterflies are where the good stuff's at. Lean into the butterflies. If you got butterflies, you need to go in that direction.
I love that. I love that. What an easy thing to pick up on when you have the butterflies, or when the asshole in your brain starts telling you, nope, we don't do that. That's when you got to lean into it. Oh, I love that. Jill, you had talked about, and I wrote this down because I loved this, letting life sink in, and that these deadlines that we air quote give ourselves, or that the world society's given us, that then we live by. I would love for you to talk to our listeners. You and I have talked about this, about being 40, no children, and how the world's breathing down our neck and what that might look like. And I would love for you to share your journey and then add in Thanksgiving. What you sent me today about Thanksgiving, I was like, I've been there.
Yes.
Please share.
So I love that we're talking about this, Meg, because not enough women do.
Mm-mm-mm.
I objectively can sit here and say, miles to go. I continue to have ambitions. I have big goals career wise, but career is an area, Meg, I'm unflappable. I'm good.
Mm-hmm.
I know I'm good.
Mm-hmm.
I've built a foundation. I have done the work. I continue to do the work. I get enjoyment from it. Where my struggles and where that self-doubt creeps in, where those questions creep in, is a lot of that personal space. And it's very interesting in that I do a lot of work on myself. I am 41. I am single. I am now grappling with, do I have a child on my own?
Mm-hmm.
And I frozen my eggs. I did that years ago, but I look around, Meg, and I don't personally know any woman who's done it on her own.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know any women personally who have had IVF, who have used a sperm donor, who are up at 4 a.m. with no partner by themselves by choice.
Mm-hmm.
And it is something that I have gone through a lot of stages about.
Mm-hmm.
You know, how do my friends who know they don't want to have kids know?
Mm-hmm.
How do my friends who know they really do want to have kids, ever since they were 8 years old, they wanted to be a mom? How do they know?
Mm-hmm.
Does that mean I'm not maternal? Does that mean I shouldn't be a mom? Society really puts that timeline on women and views us in a different light. I was at Thanksgiving with my family this past Thanksgiving, and I had a family member who was joking, but not joking, who said, "Well, Jill, you're at the kids' table. You're not an adult. You're not married." And I would love for everyone listening to have a good old knee slap and, ha ha, that's silly. Well, that comes from a lot of societal views. That view's coming from somewhere. And I'm glad I'm in a place to recognize that comment and recognize the source and know that that's not the definition of an adult, and to lean into me and what I'm doing. But I can't sit here, Meg, and say that comments like those don't trigger. And we have a lot of pressures women to do something a certain way in a certain timeline. And you're damned if you do have kids and damned if you're not. And when are you going to get married? And why aren't you dating anyone? And it's really something that I think continues to rear its head, but something that, again, I feel like I'm more now in the eye of the storm. I'm more grounded. I think it's a decision I need to make. What does happiness and that future look like for me? And the good thing, Meg, is I want to live in a future where I don't rely on someone else. I don't have to say, well, I need Prince Charming to ride in on a white horse and then maybe I'll have a kid. I'm privileged enough to say, I can do it on my own. I am the white horse.
I love that you said there something that I don't think we ever say throughout our journey to hit the check marks and do the things. What does happiness look like for me?
It's something that I always put in a broad box. Well, happiness is the same for everyone. The 2.5 kids, the white picket fence. By 32, you'll be married. It's so interesting, Meg. Again, that kind of self-reflection. Sometimes you need someone so close to you. I had a conversation with my mom last week. And she said, well, Jill, you've never been like anyone else. You've never followed a traditional path once in your life. So why start now? And I thought, oh,
Mama
maybe she's
V for
on
the
to
win.
something. Mama V knows what's up. It doesn't mean it's right or it's wrong just because my path doesn't look like everyone else's. And damn sure, of course, if I decide to have a child, would I love to have a partner and have brought them into this world with someone in that we created this baby, the two of us, out of love? Sure. But I'm dealt with the hand I'm dealt. I'm not going to now fold, go home, and walk away from the poker table. I'm going to play my damn hand.
I love that you are giving this airtime, because talk about a full circle moment. Like when we kicked started talking about putting down the mask and just the power of having real, authentic conversations. And one of the reasons you started Go To Girls podcast. And I love that you are giving airtime to something so many of us struggle with, but we feel like we're fucked up to talk about.
And I love that you're giving me and us the space to do that, Meg, because, I'll be honest with you. I'm in the middle of this. I have the eggs frozen. I know next steps. I've met with the doctors. I have not come to a definitive decision. And I think that's okay. I'm glad we're talking about that. I'm literally in the mud, what we were talking about. But that's okay, because I know at the end of the day, the decision I make will be right for me. But we don't talk about the mud. We talk about the pressure to find the husband and do this and do that. And at the end of the day, Meg, I used to beat myself up. Why doesn't anyone want to date me? Now, meanwhile, Meg, I've had more boyfriends than I can throw a stick at. Why aren't I good enough? What's wrong with me? Am I not wife material? It's just until recently, Meg, and this is not a blanket statement against men. I love men. Well, maybe they weren't good enough for me. Maybe they didn't fit my values. Maybe they didn't hit my expectations. My expectations for myself are high. So damn sure for a partner, it's going to be just as high. And that's okay. I shouldn't settle. You shouldn't settle. No one should be settling.
I am absolutely loving everything you're saying. As I reflect back on my own journey, I think to myself how often I was with people that I knew were not right for me, but I stayed because I was so desperate to be in the relationship, as I was the only one who wasn't married and the only one
Yes.
not having kids, and I felt less than when I never took the time to own my journey. And I would try to be, as you were talking about, maybe I'm not wife material. I would try to cook and clean. That's not the name of my game. It's
Mhm.
not. And that's why Michael and I work so well, is because he does not expect me to cook and clean. It's not what I like to do. It's not who I am. And I realized, as you have said so beautifully throughout this entire time together, just being comfortable in who I am, and being free to live that and not fight it, what comes from that.
And it's a journey, it's a process, but that's where it all starts. We have all the answers within. And if that's not some Oprah shit, I don't know what is. But Meg, I keep coming back to it. The more comfortable, the more I'm my own hype woman, the more I know that you need me on that court. You want me on that court. I should be the last one with my hands on that ball. The more grounded I am, the more I surrender some things to the universe. The more I'm good with my life's going to go how my life's going to go. It's going to be topsy turvy. It's going to be unexpected, but it's going to be great. It's going to be a ride. I'm going to figure this shit out because I got
Mm.
my best friend with me. I got me.
As you were talking about Oprah, it just made me think we should have recorded this in Malibu, and had a Super Soul Sunday moment. I mean,
I
this is very
mean,
Oprah-ish.
I like where we're going with this, though. I think we can think on this.
I There's so many things I want to talk to you about, but I want to not have you here all night. Although we could turn this into a 24-hour Super Soul moment.
I'm telling you.
Talk to us about this Career Catalyst program that you have, because I think it is so fucking cool.
So I started the Career Catalyst right before COVID.
Get out.
And really, I started it, Meg, as a beta test. I had a lot of women, and when I say younger women, maybe 10 years younger than me, maybe they're their 20s, who would always come to me for career advice or this, or, I started to really see that the common denominator was there's no handbook.
Mm.
We're not learning these things in school. Tips that'll really get you ahead, how to conduct ourselves in the workplace, how to negotiate, how to do a performance review, how to have one-on-one talks with your manager, things that are vital to you moving up that career ladder and taking your worth, your wealth, and your trajectory into your own hands.
Mm.
It wasn't happening. And so I said to myself, well, that's all well and good, but how do I start to hone this? How do I organize this so it can have a bigger impact? And truly, that beta test, Meg, during COVID, shit hit the fan.
Yeah.
People were reprioritizing their life. What am I going to do? Having these existential crises. The world turned upside down, and I had a wait list out the window because women needed that coach, that confidence, that roadmap, that trajectory, how to start taking that power back, how to move up in the corporate world, how to move on to something different, how to move into something. And a lot of it boils down to the confidence. And
Mm.
I really look at my program, Meg, as why reinvent the wheel? I think I'm a stronger coach and someone in your corner because I'm right there with you. I'm maybe
Yeah.
just 10 or 15 years ahead of you.
Yeah.
So I'm exactly who you need in that corner to talk you through these things. I think it makes me a stronger player. I'm still on the field with you.
Mm.
So we know the ins and outs. But I think at the end of the day, Meg, it's just really about empowering women. It's really about what can we do, tactile, tangible things to start to put more money in the hands of women, start to have women make their own choice, not have to stay in a relationship, not have to make a decision, not have to ask their husband if they can go buy X, Y, and
Yeah.
Z. To really say, guess what? I'm good. If I needed to leave a situation, bye, I'm out.
Mm-hmm.
To be able to stand on your own 2 feet and to be able to really start to break that glass ceiling. In order to break that glass ceiling, first you need to get on that ladder. And that's what we need to focus on, or what I'm really focused on. How do you push yourself? How do you go to the next level? How do you make some more money? And how do you start making moves?
Mm, mm. I love all of that. And my friend, for those of us who are salivating like me and are saying to themselves, give us more Jill. We want more Jill church service moments. Where can we find you? Where can we support you? Where can we get on this Career Catalyst program? Tell us, lay it all on us.
So Instagram, I am on always. It is at Jill, Jill dash. Oh, you know what? It's not a dash. That's my Venmo. My Instagram, I mean, your listeners could Venmo, but let's not go there. It's at Jill.Vanik. So at Jill dot V as in Victor, ANAK. Follow me on Instagram. You can email me at hello@jillvanik.com or go directly to my website, www.jillvanik.com. Also, I have the Go To Girls podcast that I host with my good friend Kate Connolly. That is available on all podcast platforms. It's Go To Girls, G-O space T-O space girls. It's giggling, life, being a modern woman, all of that good stuff, especially for your listeners in the Philadelphia area. We're all things Philly. And that's how you find me. DM me, reach out, anything. I am here. You know, I love talking to everyone and everyone.
Oh, yes. And guys, I am going to link all of Jill's social feeds, the website, the podcast, which is amazing. It'll have you laughing, crying, all of the things. It's just so well, beautifully, authentically done. My friend, I love you to pieces, and I am forever grateful that you kind, beautiful, badass, take on the world human is in this tribe and sharing your words with the world, standing right by you, shoulder to shoulder. I love you, babe.
Can I say ditto to everything? You are such a powerful force. We were connected for a reason.
Mhm.
And truly, this is what it's all about. So thank you for having me.